Do you believe in demonic possession? I'm not talking about movies, but real cases. Situations where an ordinary person suddenly begins to act in terrifying ways, as if something or someone had taken control of their mind and body. Among all the documented cases around the world, there is one that crosses the boundaries of reason. A case so disturbing it inspired a film. But what you're about to hear now is far worse than anything cinema has ever shown. If you enjoy real, dark, and disturbing stories, make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell. Today, we're re-traveling to 1970s Germany to uncover the terrifying real story behind the movie The Exorcism of Emily Rose. A story of faith, suffering, ancient rituals, and a death surrounded by mystery. A story that, to this day, no one has been able to fully explain. In 1952, in the small town of Liebelfin, West Germany, a girl named Anneliese Michel was born. Raised in a deeply Catholic family, she grew up in a religious and conservative environment where faith was everything. She was an ordinary girl, quiet, studious, shy, and very devout. Nothing in her childhood indicated the horror that awaited her years later. But in 1968, at the age of 16, Anneliese had her first seizure. After several exams, doctors diagnosed her with temporal lobe epilepsy. This condition affects the part of the brain responsible for emotions, memory, and even our perception of reality. Experts say it can cause hallucinations, sensations of a presence, and even aggressive behavior. She began taking strong However, the symptoms not only persisted, they got worse. Anneliese began saying she saw demonic faces, especially while praying. She claimed to hear voices cursing her and felt an invisible force trying to take over her body. Over time, her behavior became increasingly strange and aggressive. She began hitting her parents, screaming for hours, tearing her clothes, and destroying crucifixes. Her screams could be heard throughout the neighborhood during the night. Despite psychiatric and medical treatment, her condition kept deteriorating. Doctors believed she was suffering from a severe mental disorder with psychotic features. But for her parents, this went far beyond medicine. And that's when faith came into play. Desperate, the family sought help from local priests, claiming their daughter was possessed by demons. For months, the Catholic Church refused to authorize any kind of exorcism, insisting that she continue with clinical treatment. But after numerous failed attempts and increasingly intense reports of paranormal activity, the local diocese finally approved the ritual. The ritual authorized was the Ritual Romanum, an old and rigorous Catholic exorcism rite that had fallen into disuse, but in this case, was brought back. The priests assigned were Father Ernst Alt and Father Arnold Renz. They started visiting the Michel family frequently and began the exorcism sessions in the fall of 1975. From that point on, what happened can only be described as horrifying. Anneliese underwent over 60 exorcism sessions over 10 months. Each session lasted hours, filled with prayers, holy water, laying of hands, and religious chants. During the rituals, she screamed, convulsed, growled like an animal, and showed superhuman strength, completely incompatible with her fragile body. In some audio recordings later released, you can hear Anneliese speaking in deep, guttural voices, sometimes in languages she never studied, Latin and Aramaic among them. She claimed to be possessed by 6 demons: Lucifer, Cain, Judas Iscariot, Nero, Hitler, and an unnamed evil spirit. Each of these entities, she said, spoke through her, fighting for control of her body. She refused to eat, saying the demons wouldn't allow it. Over time, her body became dangerously weak. She tore her own skin, burned her arms, banged her head against walls until she bled, and knelt over 1,000 times in a single day. At one point, she said there was no salvation left for her, that God had abandoned her, that she had to atone for sins that weren't even hers. Her parents, deeply religious, believed it was a divine test, that their daughter was fighting for her soul. And the priests also believed that the purification process was close to completion, but there was no happy ending. On July 1st, 1976, Anneliese Michel died. She weighed just 30 kilos, about 66 pounds, severely dehydrated. Her knees were broken, her hands were wounded, and her face was deformed. The official cause of death: malnutrition and extreme dehydration. The case, which had been mostly unknown outside the community, exploded across Germany and eventually around the world. Justice intervened. In 1978, Anneliese's parents and the 2 priests who had performed the exorcisms were taken to court, charged with negligent homicide. During the trial, the audio recordings of the exorcisms were played in court, shocking the jury, the media, and the public. The defense argued that everything had been done in good faith, with the church's permission, that Anneliese was an adult and fully aware of her choices, and that she had refused to return to the hospital. On the other hand, medical experts claimed she suffered from severe epilepsy with psychotic episodes, and that the exorcisms only worsened her physical and mental health. In the end, all were found guilty, but the sentences were symbolic. The priests received 6 months of suspended prison time. The parents were not punished. Judges declared they had already suffered enough. But the trial didn't end the story. It only opened more questions, theories, and endless debate. To this day, Anneliese Michel's case is studied by psychiatrists, theologians, and paranormal researchers. For science, it was an extreme case of untreated mental illness. For the faithful, it was a real case of demonic possession. And for the world, it's a reminder that some things exist beyond our understanding. Her grave became a pilgrimage site. Many say they feel strange presences when visiting it. Others report hearing voices or having disturbing dreams after learning about her story. In 2005, her body was rumors said it hadn't decomposed, that it was intact, but no official confirmation was ever released. And what about the audio? The recordings made during the exorcisms are real, available online, and still analyzed by specialists. Voices that do not sound like they belong to a 23-year-old woman. Sounds that seem to come from a much darker place. One of the strangest details is Anneliese's conviction. Even during moments of lucidity, she insisted she was fighting for something greater, that her suffering was part of a divine plan to save other souls. This concept of redemptive suffering is known in Christian theology, but lived with such intensity by an ordinary young woman, that still gives people chills. Some physical phenomena were also reported during the sessions. Objects moving on their own, crucifixes falling from walls, sudden drops in temperature. Even the priests said they felt a dark presence, like something invisible was watching them. One of the priests kept a diary, and pages were never released. They say it contained details too dangerous to reveal. After the media frenzy, other families started reporting similar possessions, raising fears of new religious hysteria. The church, after the trial, imposed even stricter rules on exorcisms, requiring thorough psychiatric evaluation before any authorization. Still, requests for exorcisms kept coming. In 2005, the movie The Exorcism of Emily Rose reignited public interest. Many believed it was pure fiction until they found out the real story behind it. The film introduced an ethical dilemma. When should we trust medicine? And when should we listen to faith? Today, Anneliese is remembered in opposing ways. For some, she's a tragic example of what happens when mental illness is ignored. For others, she's a martyr, a soul chosen to face evil. Whether you believe in demons or not, something unexplainable happened there. And the question remains, would you have the courage to witness an exorcism? Would you recognize evil if it stood right in front of you? If you stayed with me until now, comment, "I saw the demon's eyes." That way, I'll know you're one of the brave ones. Leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and share this video with someone who loves dark stories. Then tell me in the comments, do you believe Anneliese was a victim of mental illness or a demonic force? Until the next video. And remember, not everything that happens can be explained.